Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Committed Critics, a pop culture podcast where we're not only committed to our opinions, but also each other.
Aww.
I'm Kevin Lau.
I'm Ryan Davis.
I'm Zach Rye, and there's no Jordan today. It's a sausage fest.
Rip.
Oh, Lord.
Back to the OG Committed Critics.
The OG. The three men.
But today we are talking about our favorite PlayStation games. We've all played PlayStation games since when we were wee little lads. So might as well just talk about them for a little bit. So, Zach, do you have any more to say since you wrote these notes?
Oh, no, yeah. So we should just go over what our background of our history. So what we were doing as wee little lads, how did we get into the PlayStation ecosystem? What was some of our history with it? So, Kevin, how did you get into PlayStation?
Let me see. My dad played video games, so we had a PlayStation 1 and a Super Nintendo when I was a wee little lad,
Nice.
2 years old. I don't know what my first game was. It was probably Crash Bandicoot or something.
Okay.
But then my mom got me the Sesame Street games, so Elmo's
Nice.
Elmo's letters, Elmo's numbers, stuff like that.
Learn.
You gotta learn somehow. And then I've just kind of been playing video games ever since. So yeah, that's my start into video games.
Ryan, how'd you get into PlayStation specifically?
So my first PlayStation 2 games were Kingdom Hearts, Spider-Man 2,
Nice.
and Ratchet and Clank. And those were kind of the games that kind of got me hooked on PlayStation, where I was like, oh, this is fun. It's because Nintendo was great, but it was a lot of platforming. And then Xbox, we never really had an Xbox till the 360. And even then, all we had was just sports and shooter games. So I was like, I liked the PlayStation because it felt like it had a variety of stuff that I could enjoy.
Right.
Whether it be RPGs or whether it be some platformer games, or even if it was just some kind of adventure type game. But it was a whole lot more fun for me on the PlayStation.
Yeah. For me, myself, I remember the PS1 was one of the first consoles I remember having. I still remember playing the original, the Harry Potter movie adaptation games, the Sorcerer's Stone and the Chamber of Secrets.
Hey, I have games.
Those. Do you really?
Lord.
I do have them, yeah.
I really want them to come to the PS Plus streaming so I can eventually get it and I can play on my PS5.
I mean, there's a whole lot of that's a licensing nightmare right there.
Oh God, I bet. I can imagine.
So that you're better off playing those physically, which I've beaten the first one. I've never beaten the second one.
That's funny. We've never beaten the first one. I've beaten the second one.
Really?
I
always got stuck in the second one.
I mean, Jody Wright. Jody beat the second Harry Potter game. She beat that snake. It was funny.
Well, hey, Zach, maybe we should play the first one for the show.
That'd be actually kind of funny. We should do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Anyways, go on.
That'd be a nightmare to set up.
No, it's fine. I got my HDMI with my PS2, so.
Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, so from there it expanded to. I also remember having a Nintendo 64, but my parents swear we never had one. But I know for a fact we had the weird ass 64 controller, and I still stand by it to this day. Anyway,
it's like a weird Mandela effect.
Yeah, it's I swear I remember having this weird controller, had a joystick in the middle, nowhere else, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "All right, whatever." So from there, I'm crazy. I'm getting gaslit by my own family.
The Nintendo 64 isn't real.
Exactly.
Who would make a controller like that?
What crazy minded person? But from there, I moved to the PS2, and the PS2 is just probably one of the greatest generational consoles of all time.
Oh, definitely.
PS2 is just a classic. You got all your Star Wars games on there, and that's where I really That's where I found my love for video games was the original Battlefront 2, the Lego games, and Force Unleashed. There's one other Star Wars. Oh, the movie adaptation of Revenge of the Sith. That I stand by is one of the best games I've ever played on the PS2.
Yeah, that era of video games was a huge turnaround because of just how much the game people were understanding 3D games more, and they once they had more what's horsepower to work with. It's they started like playing around with game design and like the visuals as well. So it was really fantastic generation.
It's crazy what polygons can do.
Yeah, and then PS3 was like, well, I mean, it's the same but better, I guess.
Yeah, it's just more of that.
Graphics were a little bit better in PS3.
No, it was better. Like I said, it was the same thing but better.
The PS3 had no direction. It was just, here's more of the same. We'll get into that later. But yeah, so then I started online gaming on the PS3, which is disgusting. The Xbox 360 was really meant for the online experience.
Yeah.
And I did miss out on that, but I still got some of that experience. I remember having like a Bluetooth style like earpiece microphone to talk into the PS3 with, playing Call of Duty. Like such a cringe like middle school moment.
Telling all the adults on there that you fuck their mom, you know.
Exactly. And then sadly, all my friends convinced me to get an Xbox One when that came out, and that was such a travesty. Cool. That was, I can't believe I was bamboozled into that, you know?
Yeah. No, because even though Xbox 360 was the better part of that generation, Xbox One was not.
Oh, yeah. Xbox One was not. Terrible move. However, I did have very fond memories playing on Xbox in high school, so I would never like get rid of those. But I did end up getting a PS4 Pro back in 2018 and played Spider-Man, God of War, all the new modern classics. And then PS5 in 2020, and here we are now.
Nice. Yeah.
Kevin, do you have a PS5?
No.
Don't gotta rub it in. Good God.
I don't think it's a Sony problem though, because the numbers have been saying it is the best-selling Sony console by a landslide. And other previous models were very available by this time, so it is definitely a scalper problem.
Yeah,
I think it's both. I think Sony knows how valuable they are, and so they're just keeping them keeping a fist over the supply of it.
Well, like they have to, but it's not like they're manufacturing enough, because they've manufactured more than any other previous generation.
Right.
So statistically, there should be more available, but the reason why there's not is because of all the scalpers.
Right. Exactly.
So
that leads into the ecosystem and like the types of games on the PlayStation, which I think PlayStation has the better overall exclusive lineup and quality of games. There's something that just feels so premium about the PlayStation games that you get. Now, there are some really good like Microsoft and Nintendo games, like Breath of the Wild, obviously one of the greatest games of all time. But there's just something about the quality, and that's, I think, in part due to like PlayStation Studios and like all of the ones they've, I would say, swallowed, like Insomniac, Naughty Dog, Santa Monica. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Who is the developer that made Sucker Punch? Sucker Punch. They made Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
That like Tsushima?
Yeah. I was gonna let Zach slide on that one.
Which way is it? Tsushima or Tsushima?
Tsushima.
Yeah. 10-4. Okay.
But no, I think it's like part of it's because, well, Nintendo, they're not aiming to be like Sony, like these grand titles. It's more like Nintendo as a toy, essentially.
Yeah.
It's kind of like toy-like games, so that's why it kind of has that kid feeling to it, even though like the games are more complex for everyone.
I'll give props to Nintendo for making a lot of like party games still. Like a lot of games you can enjoy with multiplayer. I will say that is the one thing I kind of dislike about the PlayStation and the Xbox now. Is that I cannot play with the same person in the same room anymore. I have to have like 5 of the same console to play.
Yeah, but COVID, Ryan.
No more split screen. No more couch co-op.
And that was my favorite thing about the PlayStation, like the PlayStation and the Xbox back in the day. It was like, oh yeah, I can play this with my friend. Cool.
Yeah, but depending on the game though, right? Like the game had to be developed to have that co-op and have that couch co-op in mind. Like that just is so much work on developers making a game when they want it in a certain state. So like I understand why that kind of fell off, because to develop like a other mode, like take for example like the Revenge of the Sith game, right? Like you didn't play through the campaign as both of the characters. It was just like a dueling sim basically. Which is still fun, obviously, but like they couldn't design the whole game around having both players in control of different models.
Right. And this is kind of a bad example, but Avengers, would not work as a split screen game. It's not a great game by any means, but still, the direction and idea that's there, I think worked better if they put players on separate consoles.
I feel
it kind of like extends to Arkham Knights.
I mean, I feel like it could have, because like you had games like that were like you could have done like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, or you could have just done like 2-player split screen. It's a third-person game, and you don't need to aim that much. Like there's been split screen third-person shooters and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like, you could have done it. It's been done before, like a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, but that takes time on the developers to make that, not just like PlayStation as a whole.
Ryan, I got the game for you. It's called Jumanji, the game.
I was waiting for GoldenEye.
It has split screen third person. It's a split screen third person shooter.
A little bit
longer. But no, as I was saying though, like Xbox with Microsoft is just a terrible publisher with no direction. So that's why they're exclusive.
However, I will say I will defend Microsoft to an extent with how many indie titles they publish that are actually very good. Their indie catalog is unmatched compared to PlayStation's, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they've also worked with Remedy for Alan Wake, which is still a fantastic game. There was another Microsoft title. Sunset Overdrive with Insomniac. Yes. That was really fantastic, but they just did a really poor job of marketing that game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then Sony kind of does like these huge like they want it to feel premium because it's kind of like their brand identity. Because even with their technology, like Sony technology is seen as like the premium thing to buy. So they're trying to extend that to the video games they make as well. So it's like these big cinematic experiences.
Yeah, I would say cinematic is the way to go. Like Kevin, we're playing through God of War, right? You can't deny that it doesn't feel cinematic in some aspect.
Right. It does feel cinematic, but like my thing is, and this was the problem with the PlayStation 3 era. PlayStation 3 era focused too much on the cinematics and not as much on the gameplay. Whereas PS4 and PS5, they did a much better job of like balancing the two concepts together. Because God of War, even though it looks really cinematic at times, the gameplay still ties it all together.
Yeah. Right.
Because I'm here to play a video game, not watch a movie.
I'm here to be the marble.
Exactly.
But yeah, any other final thoughts you guys like to add to this portion of the topic?
PlayStation Studios is a really cool idea publisher-wise, because they also give a network to all their developers to share the same like licenses and engines and other aspects of their games, and kind of like creates like an easier development time as well. So
right, that is really
I think that's cool.
Cool.
Yeah,
Ryan?
pretty much. I echo that. Like PlayStation was a huge thing for me as a kid, and it's stayed that way throughout. So love it.
We're just a bunch of Sony simps.
Sony ponies.
Xbox, garbage. Tune in after the break as we diss on Xbox more and also talk about more PlayStation stuff. See you in a bit.
Hey everybody, my name is Jordan, and you've probably heard me on an episode or two, but did you know I also have a baking channel? Bluebell Bake is by the amateur baker for the amateur baker. On the channel, I'll be posting recipes, tips and tricks, and more so we can all learn to better our baking skills. You can find my channel on YouTube at Bluebell Bake, we're currently posting monthly, or on Instagram and TikTok, both at bluebell.bake. Come join our little community where no matter what happens, we keep on baking.
Don't you wish there was a pop culture review site that appealed to cinephiles, both professional and casual? Well, look no further than crprights.com. New content such as movie and TV reviews, film essays, and more are released every week by writers who crave for movies like every moviegoer craves for popcorn. CRP Rights is dedicated to making sure no one is wasting time or money where they shouldn't be. After all, you have to be able to buy your popcorn and eat it too. crprights.com. Casual reviews with purpose since 2018.
And welcome back to Committed Critics as we continue to talk about our favorite PlayStation games, the ones that we love, and also the ones that we don't like as much. But first, what is one PlayStation game you love? Ryan,
go first.
I'm trying to think, where do I begin with that?
Well, let's see. I think there's one that you kind of mention sometimes.
I mean, going to this doc, though, however, I don't know if I can consider one of this exclusively PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem is they've started making them less exclusive because they're like, oh, let's get more fans, and Disney got a Disney. But Kingdom Hearts has been my favorite PlayStation game until they decided to put it on Xbox for some reason, which is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's not made for Xbox. It's made for PlayStation.
I mean, it's Square Enix. They can do whatever they want.
It's a pretty easy port.
The joysticks are too far away from each other.
It's a pretty easy port.
No, Ryan is correct about the joystick problem being too far apart because that game is not made for an Xbox controller.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's kind of like the same problem I'm having with God of War playing it on PC.
That was your choice, all right?
It's not made to have an Xbox controller. It's made to have a PlayStation controller. But I'm like, Kingdom Hearts has always been my favorite. I know you guys have had issues with it. I know Zach and Jordan have slight PTSD from it, but it was a good
coconuts.
Game. It has a non-complicated story, not at all complicated whatsoever.
I love how Ryan thinks I have PTSD from this game when I haven't thought about Kingdom Hearts in probably about 3 months.
Triggered.
Nah, I've never seen anyone rage that much. I was like, it's easy.
What? I raged when we were playing it.
I know, but I'm like, it's such an easy game. I think the hardest thing is like if you do the secret bosses, like don't fight Sephiroth. Obviously, Sephiroth is annoying.
I can go into all about the difficulty settings of Kingdom Hearts, but move on.
Yeah, that and Uncharted, because Uncharted was probably the first PlayStation 3 game I had.
Mm-hmm.
Or the first game that my dad allowed me to have that most of the shooting games we were allowed to play. I had to play at a friend's house.
Mm-hmm.
Except for Uncharted, because my dad was like, "This game is great. Go ahead and play. You're an adventurer or whatever." And so I played Uncharted. And so
you're a pirate.
My dad literally was like, I liked Uncharted so much that when the movie came out, and I was like, I don't want to go see this because it's it looks terrible. And my dad was like, you have to see it. You loved Uncharted. You have to support every single thing about Uncharted. And I was like, no. So. I didn't go see the Uncharted movie because I like the game so much. It's probably it's one of the few video game series that has made me tear up at the final game. It's ironic that I love Uncharted considering I don't like Naughty Dog's other big game, but we'll get to that later.
You don't like Jak and Daxter?
Yeah, how dare you?
It's basically Crash Bandicoot, but worse.
Yeah.
I still remember the first time I finally got to play Uncharted was on Ryan's PlayStation 4. And I beat the first game in 6 hours and Ryan was shocked.
That was terrifying. The only thing that Kevin stumbled on, he probably would have finished it faster, but he was stuck on this one little rope thing. He kept jumping off a cliff.
There was one part where the rope to go down was hidden, so I had no idea what I was supposed to do.
Is that the very first 10 minutes of the game?
No, it was
it was
halfway through the game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's you climb up a tower to get something, you need to climb back down, but the rope, there was I didn't use the rope to climb up, so I didn't know there was a rope to climb down. So I was just lost for a good 5 minutes.
I was just watching Kevin jump off this cliff for 5 minutes, and I was like, what's going on?
We'll get to my thoughts on Uncharted in a different section, but continue.
So Ryan, about Persona 5?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Persona 5. I also love Persona 5, mainly because I think that's probably one of the first quote unquote anime games I played on a PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was like, oh man, this is great. Persona 5 was literally I have no idea what I'm buying, and I bought it at full price, and I immediately regretted it after I paid the money. And then I got home and I was like, oh man, I don't regret anything. This is the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so good that I've replayed it. I think the first game I replayed 4 times, and then Royal I've replayed 3 times.
Jesus.
And each playthrough is at between 150 to 250 hours.
Yep.
And that's how much free time Ryan has.
Ryan's got too much free time.
No, this is one. It was also during college. Some of this, but like two, it's you get lost in it. Like you get lost in some of the gameplay. Like some of the conversations I did skip over. I will admit to that because I'm like, all right, I've heard this 100 times. The tutorial is like super long, but it's such a good game.
So, ladies, if you're listening to this, now you know for sure Ryan is single.
Wow.
Damn.
Wow.
He is available. He has time.
He's single. He's a weeb. And he's got the time.
Damn. I don't know if that is that a compliment.
He
or
buys
insult?
games at full price. He's got money.
Patreon
I feel like-
producers. We'll add another tier to go on a date with Ryan.
Oh god. Gee, thanks, guys.
You're
Oh, my
welcome.
God.
Trying to
You're
boost
welcome.
you up every time
I'm
I
just trying to
can.
help you out.
Uh-huh.
For me, my favorite PlayStation game, which is also not a PlayStation game anymore, is the original Crash Bandicoot series. Specifically the third one I grew up with a lot. I replayed a lot because it's the easiest one, but I've also played the other two as well. For a more
first one was
modern
brutal.
title, what's up?
So that first one is brutal.
I remember
yeah.
playing the Wrath of Cortex and just doing the minecart mission over and over again because I just love doing it.
No, that's the first one not made by Naughty Dog. We don't really talk about
Yeah.
that one.
That's
It's fine
fair.
though.
That's fair.
It's fine. For a more modern title, I do really enjoy Insomniac's Spider-Man as of right now. I need to catch up on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 era games still, but you know, as a big Spider-Man fan myself, I played that game. I was like, yeah, this is what I wanted from a Spider-Man game. This is Spider-Man game perfection.
This is what I want from Spider-Man movie. This is what I want from Spider-Man everything.
Exactly.
What,
Perfect
are you telling me your
adaptation.
favorite Spider-Man game wasn't Web of Shadows
Ooh.
or Edge of Time or Across or what was it, Dimensions or whatever? Shattered.
Oh,
Dimensions?
Shattered. Okay, hey,
Dimensions.
listen. Shattered Dimensions is good.
Kevin would die on this hill.
I haven't played Edge of Time yet. I heard that was pretty decent as well. Web of Shadows I mostly enjoyed. What was the one where you collect villains?
I don't remember that one.
Friend or Spider-Man,
I
friend
would
or
put-
foe.
Oh,
Friend or
that
foe.
one, yeah.
That one was awful. What about you, Zach?
I think it's a cliche answer, but God of War 2018 is close to what I call a perfect game based off the mechanics and the how the mechanics tie into the story and just like that one-shot camera movement. Insomniac's Spider-Man franchise, like I agree with Kevin, is also a high contender for that praise as well. The biggest compliment I can give these games is each game makes you feel like the character you're playing. Like, I mean, Kevin, you aren't feeling this with God of War because you're playing on Xbox controller, you nerd.
I think it's like also like playing it on my desk and my PC monitor instead of like on a
Right.
couch with a big TV. So like
Yeah.
whenever I have the money to get a big TV and stuff like that, I will replay the game.
No, I'm just giving you shit for playing using an Xbox controller or a PS5 controller or a PS4 controller even. But the way like the axe, like you actually call the axe back in God of War, like it feels really good on that kind of controller.
Right.
And just be able to tear through enemies. And when you get a certain weapon later in the game, it feels very satisfying and just feels like you are Kratos and you are able to use Atreus as another weapon and he's like actually there for you.
The way you phrase it, it's like I just imagine throwing Atreus at enemies.
I mean, sometimes you do, you know, like he leaps off your back and attacks them with his bow. Just because you forget about Atreus all the time, Kevin, doesn't mean it's his fault.
Wait, do you really?
He
No.
always forgets to call Atreus.
I forget that he can shoot arrows. It's whatever.
Yeah, just hitting square. I'm like, just hit X, just hit square.
No, I'm Kratos. I have to do it myself because of toxic masculinity.
Jesus.
I am the character.
Oh my God. And Spider-Man and even that Miles Morales also do a great job of making you feel like that character. Even though they are both Spider-Man, they both feel very different and distinct when you're using the mechanics, like the Venom Punch in Miles Morales versus all the extra gadgets Peter gets in the original game. Yeah, there's some other things like all the open world stuff and all the collectibles. Like, yeah, it's a little too much sometimes, but just swing around the city is one of the biggest things in Spider-Man where it's like, man, you just feel like Spider-Man swinging through the city. I think that's one of the biggest comments you can give a game is if the world building, if the mechanics and the story all build on each other, it makes it a masterclass for the player to feel like that superhero or that God of War, you know?
Man, if you think Spider-Man has too many collectibles, wait till you play Spyro.
I don't need to play Spyro. That's Jordan's game.
Oh, is she playing Spyro?
No, she played Spyro when she was like 5.
Oh.
It's like,
Also
you didn't play
Insomniac.
Skylanders?
No.
Yeah, Skylanders is easy.
I agree, but also I love collecting all the things.
That's
Fair enough.
Moving
All right,
on.
so what is one PlayStation game that everybody loves that you don't? Who wants to go first?
I mean, you two can say it together.
All right, ready, Ryan?
Yep.
3,
One.
2, 1. The first
Last
Last of Us.
Wow, that was so off.
I know.
I didn't think you were gonna say the first Last of Us. I was just gonna say Last of Us in general.
I am
Oh my
fairly
God.
certain the second one's probably a good game. I haven't looked up spoilers on it. I haven't looked up gameplay of it, but
Here's the
based on what
deal.
I've heard, I'm pretty sure it's a
Kevin,
good game.
You will love The Last of Us Part 2. Ryan,
That's what I'm. Yeah.
You will absolutely hate The Last of Us Part 2.
Well, I
More
believe
so
it.
than the first one.
I've tried playing the first Last of Us several times. I have bought and resold that game 3 times. I've downloaded it on my PlayStation when it was
Listen,
free,
it's okay to just
and I
admit you
played
guys
it
don't have
twice.
taste, okay?
No, I get bored every single time. I'm like, all right, this is boring. I can't. Like, I get a little bit further, and every time I get a little bit further, I'm like, this still has not gotten good. And so I just turn it
Maybe-
off, and I'm like, I undownload it.
Maybe the
mean-
remat or the reboot or whatever the Part 1 is will fix those problems for you.
Maybe.
It's not even. It's the story. Like, I'm just not invested. Like, I was like, if I want a good, like, old guy takes care of young girl, like, zombie story, I'll just go play Telltale Last of Us. I mean, Telltale Walking Dead or whatever.
Mhm.
That's what I'll go play.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can do more than this. At least I can actually, like, pick where I want to shoot. It's not just quick time,
I don't know.
Quick time things.
It's
I'm here for the story.
with the first Last of Us. I always felt like every time I played it, I've always felt like it was focused more on the cutscenes than the actual gameplay. Even though like it tries to say like, oh, it's a game, we play, it's all about the gameplay when it doesn't feel like it. And like the way people praise it, like, oh, how like the visuals look and all that, like, oh, it's so cinematic. I'm like, well, Uncharted came out before this, and like they basically just did the same method, but just put a different color palette on it. And the gameplay kind of combines both Uncharted and Resident Evil, but it kind of like I said, it focuses more on being a movie instead of a game for me.
That's also the PS3 era. That's all
Exactly.
PS3 games were.
Exactly.
It's also weird because like the controls for me, like when I was playing Last of Us, like you would think, okay, it's the same thing as Uncharted, but they make like slight little differences that kind of like mess me up.
Well, it's trying to create more like survival aspect to it, which I didn't mind that. But
Yeah.
for me, Uncharted felt more like a game with cinematic cutscenes, and whereas Last of Us was a flipped version of that.
I disagree. I think Uncharted is mid at best.
I mean, I'm not saying Uncharted was fantastic either, but
No.
Uncharted felt more like
No,
a
it
game
was
than The Last
fantastic.
of Us.
Uncharted is just a
for-
product of its time. The story didn't really intrigue me. It's just pirates. It's just Nathan Fillion being Nathan Fillion. That's really all it is.
You've
Wasn't
only played
even
the first one
Nathan
though,
Fillion.
right?
I barely even gotten through the first 10 minutes of the first game just because I got so bored.
The first one is basic. You can just jump into the second one instead.
The first
Yeah.
one is just a basic story event, just setting up the characters and everything. The second game is when they start like kind of traveling the world a lot more. Third game's
Ryan, you
okay.
can't even make it through one game. I'm not going to make it through 4.
Hey, I'm sorry. Last of Us.
You
is
only
slow
have to
compared
play
Uncharted.
2, the second one and the fourth one.
Here's the exact.
Absolutely not.
Last of Us starts off impressive. Like I'm like, oh man, like the whole like running with his daughter, like trying to escape like the apocalypse. I'm hooked, and then immediately after that, it's just slow. But then I
Zach.
get to Uncharted, and I'm like, all right, pirates are already attacking me right off the gate. We're going like to different locations. I'm still fighting pirates. I'm still like hunting for this treasure, and I'm just like, I want to see how it goes. And then suddenly, zombies.
Yeah, that was interesting. But Zach, Neil Druckmann directed the last Uncharted game, right?
Did he do the first 2 or no? Did he just do the last one?
No, he just did the last one.
That's what I thought.
That
I wasn't
last
quite
one
sure.
Makes me cry.
But yeah.
No, but Neil Druckmann's also doing the Last of Us HBO series. So there's your movie, guys. Easy peasy.
Finally, the best way to experience it.
The best medium for the Last of Us story.
Except
also
that,
don't-
except that the video quality kind of looks like garbage.
Here's the
Listen.
thing: if it's already cinematic game, then why make a show about it? It's literally the same thing. It's just that you have no control anymore.
It's for the popular. It's for the mainstream because not like we're in the minority. Like we play video games. A lot of people don't.
Yeah. As mainstream as video games seem, a lot of people don't play them.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
So what about you? Well, you kind of covered your PlayStation game that everyone loves, but you don't, Zach.
Yeah. I just don't care. I don't care to get into Uncharted. I'm just kind of like, it just seems kind of like a regular old like treasure hunting game.
I mean, you didn't
there's-
like Indiana Jones, so there's that.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
It's just a new Tomb Raider, but with a whitewashed guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all I have for that.
Cool. All right. Well, moving on to our final thoughts. For me, I grew up with Sony, but I'm still catching up on must-play titles because I was a dumb kid and didn't know what was popular at the time. I just played what I thought was cool, like, the Spider-Man titles and also Cars, the video game.
Oh my God.
man.
Cars, the video game slaps on PS2.
It kind of
Cars, the
does,
video game,
actually.
slaps. Driving around as Lightning McQueen or Mater. Absolutely. Oh my God.
It's for me, it's both the boost and the jump ability. Like
Yes.
that like makes the racing feel very unique.
That time, that is all. That free play like style is also tied for me with the Transformers movie, the game.
Yes.
Like that free roam is just running around with the Transformer, just destroying the city. Like Bumblebee climbing to the top of the highest tower, jumping off.
Oh, yeah.
Like that kind of sandbox shit. Oh my God, let your imagination run wild.
Oh yeah. But I've never played Shadow of the Colossus. I've never played the Metal Gear Solid series, never played Sly Cooper. So like I'm still catching up on a bunch of stuff. I'm much more interested in platformers than combat adventures, it kind of explains my lean towards Nintendo. But
What a little kid.
I know, my little toys. But where Sony is now, they're doing a better job of matching cinematics with gameplay, and it creates a better user experience that I really enjoy.
Ryan.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna stick with PlayStation forever. Like I'll get I have no reason to get Xbox other than like if I want to play all Halo games, I'll stick with Nintendo because they come out with revolutionary stuff, but they have like no sales whatsoever. But like PlayStation has a selection of games I love. I can embrace my Wii if I want to. I can embrace like an adventure game if I want to. Any kind of like just different. It has different stuff like styles of stuff that I can play. So
I will say that the main reason I would get the current Xbox is because of backwards compatibility all the way to the first generation of Xbox consoles of Xbox games. So it's more of like for like preservation and like being able to experience video game history for me.
If you want
can I
like
play
the
Transformers War of Cybertron or X-Men Destiny on it?
I think
should be
play
able
the
to.
Transformers one. I'm
All
pretty
right,
sure.
that's all I want. That's
like,
the only games I want to play.
I think it's
again.
pretty much every game.
It's close, but you need Game Pass, I believe, or some kind of.
Xbox Live.
If you have the game, you can put it in the disk drive of the Xbox Series X, obviously. But if you want to play backwards and download it, I believe you need Game Pass. But yeah, for me, the PlayStation ecosystem has always been my favorite place to play. I think there are things that Sony needs to do. I think they need to take some ideas from Microsoft because the new generation of Xbox consoles have some really cool features like quick resume and smart delivery. Like imagine, Ryan, you want to download an old PS4 game and then it finally updates the PS5 version, but you don't have to pick which one. You just pick the game you want and hit play, and it automatically delivers the best version for your console. Yeah, back when the PS5 first came out, you had to pick which one you wanted. Do I want to play the dinky PS4 version of the game, or do I need to choose the PS5 version of the game? That was a pain in the ass. Quick resume. The quick resume basically lets you have like 3 saved games, like 3 open games. You don't have to close. You don't have to only have one game open. You can have 3 open at once, basically, and it just goes right back to where you were. It like opens in like 10 seconds. It's actually incredible. I think these kind of features and the outlook Microsoft has, where it's kind of like preservation of media, is that kind of vibe they're going for with like the backwards compatibility and like play anywhere you want and like games for all with Game Pass. Whereas like PlayStation mantra is like, we believe in generations, where it's like, all right, so basically you're old is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, Microsoft's like, it really is like kind of like the best way to play third party titles.
Yeah.
And they've really started to understand that. And that's why they're going more the preservation route, because a lot of third party titles do not get brought back for the new generation.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They're kind of like lost to time. So
I really want
you
a
know.
Series S just so I can complete my new generation of consoles.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I can have like a way to play like all my Xbox, download Xbox titles, because I hook my hard drive up to it. And B, I can like, just download the ones I already have bought, and that'd be great,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to close on out of here. If you want to hear the rest of our thoughts about other topics, tune into our full episode over on Patreon. Link to that is below in the description. You can follow us on Twitter at Committed Crits, COMMITTED0ITS, on YouTube, Committed Critics, TikTok at Committed Critics. And special thanks to our current patrons: David Peppers from Game Mechanics, Ryan Kolakowski from Ryan Plays Drums, Andy Phillips from Andy Phillips, Jody Wright, Devin Vonderhyde, and Brandon Morales. And we will see you in 2 weeks when we talk about light and magic. Bye.